Election 2024 coverage live from the Great Media Iowa Television State Capitol Bureau in Des Moines, Iowa. Political Director Dave Price, along with Connor Hendricks, who's been checking in with county auditors all over our state this afternoon and this evening. We heard talk about this could be one of those record turnouts. That's a tall order from 2020 because it was, they made it kind of easy there. Everybody essentially got a ballot mailed to them. But how's it looking?
Well, in Lynn County in particular, folks are going to have to wait a little bit longer to get those results for absentee ballots. So those early voters who voted in person at the county auditor's office, as well as people who mailed those ballots in. There are about 50,000 mail-in ballots in Lynn County. Now, the reason for the delay is because of that high number of mail-in ballots. There's no technical issues or anything like that in play here. It's just the sheer amount of ballots they've received. Now, for a timeline of this, the Lynn County Auditor's Office expects to have results for absentee votes by about midnight tonight. Now, for all other regular votes, that is at 8:30 tonight. We should have most of that right here in the next 30 or so minutes.
All right, so we're looking, we know Polk's big, Johnson's big. Lynn's going to be a while before we know everything once they start looking through that. And as you were talking, obviously the polls are closed and we're starting to get our first numbers of the night. All right, you're going to bounce in here a bunch of times.
That's right.
Throughout us tonight. Thank you, Connor.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, so the very early numbers, you have Donald Trump up over Kamala Harris, almost doubling her so far in our first vote totals of the night. A lot of races to get to. Let's bring in our contributors for this hour and the next hour. A couple of guys I've known for a long time. Democrat Jerry Crawford and Republican Mike Mahaffey. Gents, we have spent a lot of election nights together over the years, so I appreciate you embracing the new technology and joining us from afar.
Yeah, well, I think embrace is a little strong, David. We're going to try and struggle through.
What no one can see is that both of these men are smart enough to have their wives very close to them to bail them out of any technical snafus. So they are brilliant in that way. All right, gents.
Yeah, just David, just like they've bailed us out of other things in our marriages. Okay, so yes.
Spoken like a man who's been married for a long time. Thanks, Mike.
Yes.
Hey, Mike, let's bat leadoff for us here as we're starting to get into some of these first few numbers, and I'm going to jump into them here in a second. But what's the big storyline to you? What are you most curious as we begin the night?
David, I think it is whether or not the Democratic Party in Iowa is able to make some gains tonight. They've had the Democrats have had significant losses in Iowa in recent years, and before you can even think about getting back into the majority in the legislature, you've got to start winning some races again rather than losing. So that's one thing. The second thing is we do have at least two congressional races that have received a lot of interest and a lot of money, and that is the 1st Congressional District and the 3rd Congressional District. There are no Democrats in Washington, D.C. represented in Iowa. We'll see if that changes tonight.
All right, Jerry Crawford, what are you thinking about as we begin the evening?
Well, the presidency sort of lays over this entire terrain, and there have been some disappointments, frankly, among Democrats with the early returns from the East Coast, though the Midwest is looking a lot stronger. So that's one that we're not going to get to the conclusion on today, but we are going to get to the bottom of, as Mike said, the 1st and the 3rd congressional districts. We've got a lot of that vote in and counted. Lenan Bakam has a significant lead, 27,000 vote lead from the early voting. He probably needs to win Polk County. That's a Polk County return that I just gave you. Probably needs to win Polk County by more like 35% instead of 27%, which he has a chance to do with the same day voting that occurred today. And then there are a couple of interesting legislative races. I know Mike has some as well. Nate Bolton, who was under serious attack, and I might say not the best form from the Republican Party, from a character named Mike Pike. People clearly smelled that one out, and Bolton has a significant 2,800 vote lead over Pike. And also a young woman from Altoona, Sievers, has a dramatic 1,000-vote lead over Gustav in a House race that was being watched. So that's sort of the overview, Dave.
And Gustav is the incumbent in that race, Mike.
Well, the other race in the Des Moines area that has a lot of interest is the Brad Zahn Matt Blake race, which is probably the most expensive state Senate race in Iowa this year. There's been over $2 million spent in that state Senate race. Brad Zahn has been in the state Senate since 2004. He was mayor of Irvindale before then. He always has close races. This will certainly be a close race. The Democrats need to pick up one seat tonight for purposes of doing away with the Republican supermajority in the state Senate. There are 34 Republican senators, 16 Democratic senators. So that is another race to watch. There's one in the Cedar Falls area, Dave, with Senator Eric Giddens, which the Democrats need to hold. And that has been a competitive race, although I think the Democrats feel Senator Giddens will hold that seat.
It does seem they have optimism on that. Hey, as we back out and look at this third congressional race, and let me double check. Yeah, we don't have numbers on there. Mike, let's start with you. For Zach Nunn, who back 2 years ago when he won this seat, when Cindy Axne was the incumbent Democrat who had the seat at the time, I mean, he only won by 2,145 votes district-wide, and she only carried Polk County at the time, and carried it comfortably, 57 to 43%. As you flip ahead to 2024, Mike, what is Zach Nunn going to have to do to make sure that he can hold on to this seat?
Well, it's changed a little bit in terms of the counties, but the big counties are still Polk County and Dallas County. One of the reasons Zach Nunn won last time is that he carried Dallas County. I think for Lennon Bacom to win, and that's Jerry's district, so obviously he'll have some say on that. But I think President Harris is going to have to do well in the 3rd district. If she wins the 3rd district in the presidential race, then I think it bodes well for Lennon Bacom. It's a close race, and I think that it's one that the Republicans are concerned about. I don't think quite as concerned as the 1st district, but I'll let Jerry speak to the 3rd district also.
And Jerry, before I'm going to jump in here just to give some context, I called up Dallas County from 2 years ago, and as we recall, back in 2022 when it was the Nunn-Cindy Axne race, you've got Nunn winning by 1,575 votes, so roughly whatever that is, 3.6, I think, if my math is right on the fly here. So close, but it did have some margin there. So Jerry, what do you make of it?
Well, before I get to Bacom again, and his lead is about 28,000 votes as we start to get the same day voting in. Matt Blake has a 3,200 vote lead over Zahn at this point in the reporting.
Yeah, and that would be significant if the Democrats pick that seat up. That would be significant, Jerry.
And Matt Blake, the past week, had military duty obligations, so that kind of final push of campaigning as he's trying to take this seat, he was not personally around for. I know they had door knockers out there trying to help on his behalf, but Jerry, how much of an issue is that, or is that an issue?
No, I don't think so. Certainly the early returns don't indicate that it is. I think there are worse things you can do as a candidate for public office than let people know that you're wearing the American uniform. I
agree.
Still looking at these presidential numbers here. So the very, very early returns, Donald Trump in Iowa, 64.4%. Kamala Harris, 34.6%. Gents, when it comes specifically to the presidential race just in Iowa, how do we know and when will we know if Ann Seltzer's Des Moines Register Iowa poll that had Harris up 3, what can we look for in these statewide numbers that will give us an indication of whether the trend she picked up is actually carrying through on Election Day?
Well, Dave,
Well,
I think one of the things that you need to look for is whether or not she is carrying more counties than Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton carried in Iowa. If I remember correctly, Jerry, I think they each only carried 6 counties in Iowa, and now they were urban counties, and that does make a difference. But compared to 2012, when Barack Obama, I think, carried something like 30 plus counties, I'm not saying she has to do that, but she has to do better in some of the counties that Biden and Clinton did not do well in order to win Iowa.
And she looks like she's come out of Polk County with a 28,000 vote lead in same-day voting. That's probably on the line of what she would need in order to carry Iowa.
I'm looking at these numbers that just crossed from Georgia with about 69% in. Trump is up by single digits in that race over Kamala Harris in there. Jerry, if Trump carries Georgia, what does that mean for Harris?
Oh, I don't think that is the end of the road. There are about 6 smaller but significantly sized communities in Georgia, other than the obvious ones, and they are collectively influential in the outcome of this thing. It does look uphill in Georgia, I have to say that, but there's still a lot of the major metropolitan area around Atlanta that is yet to report in. I think that we need to keep our eye out for North Carolina. Have any of you seen a recent number there?
I will keep an eye on that as I'm watching a ticker go through here, and I'll try to jump in with that. Hey, I'm realizing we're getting a few more numbers trickling in from Iowa now. We've got Wright County must have been those initial numbers where Trump's up 64-35. In Carroll County, with about 4,551 votes in here, he's up 62.5 to 36. Let's see, Poweshiek, reasonably close. He's up by 149. Mike, 54.5 to 43.7. Other one it looks like we have here is Sarah Gordo. That's Mason City. Harris, that's the one she is leading at this point. She is up 433, so she has 51.5% there. Trump has 47.1%. I don't know when we get to full totals from these counties, but they're coming in big batches here as they're releasing these, gents. Let's see if we have anything from the congressional.
Yeah. David, Cerro Gordo would be one of the counties that if Kamala Harris comes close to winning or wins it, that would show you that she has some strength in Iowa that neither Joe Biden nor Hillary Clinton had in 20 and 16.
I'm going to flip through the congressionals. No numbers in yet from the first. We do have some numbers in from the second, and so very, very, very early on here. Not super early on. We got 9,326 votes here. Very close, though. Ashley Hinson, 49.6. Sarah Corkery, 49.2. And as we look, let's put the heat on there. So Sarah Gordo for the House race. Looks like that's where the numbers are coming in so far. I don't know that we're getting. Yeah, I don't think we're getting anything else in. So in that race, it's Sarah Gordo where numbers have come in. Let's check the third and see. Nothing from the third. We do have some numbers coming in on the fourth here. This is not one of the races that we expect to be close, and it's Randy Feenstra up 2-1 over his repeat challenger, the Democrat Ryan Melton. So with 6,255 votes in, Feenstra has 66.7. Ryan Melton, 33.3. A couple of the key counties. It kind of holds true here. Carroll County, Feenstra beating him about 2-1, and in Wright County, which county we talked about before, getting their numbers in early, even better than 2-1 in that let's see, we'll back off a little bit. Well, Harris has surged ahead now as more counties have come in, and that's because Polk has reported a big batch here, gents. So overall, statewide, before I break into the counties, we've now got Harris up with 168,013 total votes coming in here. Harris with 58.3%, and Donald Trump with 40.6%. And as we start looking at the county by county, we had Sarah Gorda that we talked about before, but gents, Polk County has now jumped in with a big batch here, 150,114 votes now into the ticker here. Kamala Harris, 59.9%. Donald Trump, 39%. Jerry, anything we can make of this so far?
What is that? I didn't have my pencil ready. What is that margin? How many votes?
We've got 150,114 total. The difference between the two would be 31,307 total votes. Percentage is 20.9% difference. I'm glad this adds up the difference for me, because that's some quick math I'd be doing on the fly. Very appreciative of that.
It's proving a challenge to try and do the math and listen and talk and all at the same time.
And chew
At the
gum,
same
right?
time.
While he's number crunching over there, Mike, is there concern for Trump with this 150,000 in to be down by that much in Polk, or not yet?
No, because I think she needs to have that kind of margin in Polk County. We always have to remember in Iowa on election night, some of the rural counties do not report in until later. I don't know what we've got so far from Northwest Iowa, but we know that will be Trump country. So it appears as if the vice president is doing well in Polk County, and she is, but she has to, David. So I wouldn't say that that's overly a concern in terms of the race overall. Where it may be a concern is in some of the legislative races, if that is carrying over to the state Senate and the state House races.
And from the way I'm looking at it here, I don't believe we're getting anything in.
No.
Yeah, we don't have anything in from the.
Yeah, I don't see anything yet either.
As we know historically, we tend to wait there. Let's see if we've got anything from the first. Nothing in that first district, and that is definitely one. A lot of eyeballs are going to be on that one. Nothing in for the third yet. Now we know numbers are in for Polk, so we'll see if we're about to get see if that one's about to change here. Oh, there we go. Speaking of. All right, so now we got an update with the third. So, gents, as we look at the numbers for the third, and we've now bounced up in this for Polk County, for the total, the total in the district, we've got 157,330. Now that I believe is only from Polk County numbers. So Jerry, if you're a number crunching here, the numbers I have, I've got Lennon-Bacom 92,369. Zach Nunn 64,961, with that difference being Bacom plus 27,408. So to make the numbers a little easier to follow, we got roughly 59% for Bacom, 41% plus for Nunn.
Dave, what percentage of the vote in Polk County is in?
I do not know that.
Okay.
That's what I've been checking, Mike, and it's difficult. It's difficult to figure that out.
Hey, hold on. I'm sorry. It's because my big head is blocking it. We've got 46% reporting. They're counting at 58% of the estimated total vote. I knew this big mug of mine was going to cause me problems. Just got to move out of the way.
But again, Dallas County becomes important, and then we have the rural counties reporting in. What it amounts to, I think, Jerry and Dave, is that's going to be a very close race.
Yeah, Polk is the only one reporting in the 3rd congressional district so far. Let's see if one has.
Yeah, keep an eye out for Dallas. Keep an eye out for Dallas County, because if Lennon-Bacom can win Dallas County, he's taken a big step toward being successful tonight.
For sure.
That's what happened last time, was that there was a big Cindy Axon ran up a big Polk County number, but then it got brought down by Dallas County. And there are also, we have to remember, the silent but deadly 12 counties, smaller in nature, but that vote overwhelmingly. It's kind of like Northwest Iowa. So you have to keep your eye on that too as we go through this.
And I'm going to check these amendments. That Amendment 1, the citizenship requirement, and it kind of aligns the Constitution with what we follow for voting already. That one overwhelming here is about 72% yes, 28% no. Vote difference is 71,000 here. So folks weighing in on that one. And then that other one, the Amendment 2, the gubernatorial succession, which kind of came up obviously previously when Terry Branstad left to become the U.S. ambassador to China, and then Kim Reynolds ascended. And now we have Adam Gregg who quit the job, so we have no lieutenant governor right now. That one is 74.2% yes, 25.8% no on there. All right, I'm going to do a circle of the congressionals because those are the ones we're watching biggest on here. Still nothing in from the first. Let's see where that second stands now. This one's close. Still, we don't have much in here. Ashley Hinson up 50.6% over Sarah Corkery in that second district, her Democratic challenger, 48.2. So that the difference is only 261 between these two women, 10,634 total votes. So we have Sarah Gordo, where it's roughly tied. It's Hinson up by 38, and then Poweshiek, the only other county which is now newly reporting. That one, Hinson is up by a greater percentage, up by 223. So she's up 58 to 40.9. So those are the only two counties reporting there. Doesn't look like we're getting anything new from Polk yet. So Bacom doing well in Polk, a big margin there. We'll bounce back out to the presidential race to kind of see where things stand. Now we're ticking in on 175,000 total votes in the presidential race here, gents, with Kamala Harris 57.7%, Donald Trump 41.2%. Now, I know you're both also keeping an eye on some of these legislative races. Jerry, what really sticks out is something that Mike talked about that kind of puts it in perspective from your party, not to pile on here, but as Mike has talked about, if Democrats pick up one Senate seat, then at least Republicans don't have the supermajority anymore. And it seems like coming into this night, Senate Democrats had pretty modest expectations about what they could expect tonight, right?
That's right. Although they got, after the Seltzer poll, they became more hopeful because obviously if you have a presidential candidate at the top of the ticket that is performing strongly, it gives you hope that you can drag some folks across the finish line successfully from down ballot. So I would say there was hopefulness and optimism after Ann Seltzer's poll. And by the way, Corker's numbers would be somewhat consistent with Ann's poll. We haven't seen yet the first and the third. I'm particularly interested in the first. We don't have anything there though, do we?
No, we do not have the first, and the only one reporting in that third as of yet is Polk County. Let me bring in Connor Hendricks here, who's been paying attention all day to Polk, and you ran over there earlier this afternoon. You've been talking about the watch on the turnout. What do you make of it?
So turnout today in Polk County did break a record. It's not the most amount of votes ever cast in Polk County, but turnout did set a record. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, we had 124,000 people come to the polls today. We had 88,000 people vote either by mail or early at the counter of the county auditor's office. So in Polk County, we have broken a turnout record so far, but we have not broken the total vote so far just yet.
All right, do that one more time. So we got a turnout record, but not a record?
Correct. We have a turnout record, but this is not the most amount of voters who have ever showed up to the polls in Polk County. Just for today, this is the highest turnout they've seen.
So the highest turnout on Election Day?
Correct.
All right. Sometimes I got to hear it twice before it sinks in.
I had to say it twice.
Dave?
Yeah.
Dave Price.
Yeah, excuse me. Go ahead, Jerry.
I think you'll both find this interesting with about 85,000 votes counted. Justice David May is upside down in the referendum, 43,000 to 41,000, roughly speaking.
And that was one of those where Democrats had talked about uniting to not retain him because of that decision to uphold the 6-week abortion ban.
Correct.
So this would sort of be the flip side of, in this case, it's the liberals and progressives getting together in ways that social conservatives did years back after gay marriage.
It is important to note that the 2,000 vote margin I mentioned, or I guess it's maybe 3,000, is Polk County only.
Right.
So,
and I think because of that, I think David May will be retained. Let's talk just a few minutes, Dave, about the first district, which we don't have any reports in, but I think that's probably the district that the Republicans are most concerned about. They're concerned about the third also, but the first, you have a Democratic candidate running for the second time, and history in Iowa shows that sometimes those second time around candidates can be successful. Tom Harkin is an example, Jim Leach as an example. So that is what I've heard from that district. And Pulaski County is surrounded by that district, by the way, Jasper and Mahaska and Iowa County, is that there's some real concern there. What Christina Bohannon needs to do, once we see Johnson County, she has to win Johnson County by about 70%. Because she's got to run up a really big margin there to make up for some of the rural counties. The other county to watch there is Scott County, always a very competitive county, and to see how the Congresswoman Miller Meeks and Christina Bohannon do in Scott County. So those are two to really watch in the first district.
And Mike, I just punched up, and we still don't have numbers reporting from that first district. I looked back 2 years ago, and to your point, Scott County Miller Meeks won when these two faced off the first time, 52.7 for Miller Meeks, Christina Bohannon's 47.3. So it was a difference of 34-17 in Scott alone. And in Johnson County, where you're talking about that 70% margin, she was 71.5 2 years ago, 28.5 for Miller Meeks. And as we talked about earlier, the Bohannon camp had really focused on trying to turn out University of Iowa students on campus. And of course, there was also a dust up that Miller Meeks had complained that Bohannon had appeared in kind of Iowa colors, whether it was the Hawkeye logo, whatever it was, but Iowa colors. I think there was a cease and desist to have her not do those in their videos anymore. But that was something that came up, kind of one of those unexpected things that came up throughout. All right, let's update us here and see where we stand. Now we're still waiting here. Slow coming in on that first congressional district. Let's update the 4 while we're at it, the 4th. And as we back off here, we're getting a few more votes in here. A lot of rural counties here. Randy Feenstra, the district he is representing, it's such a big chunk geographically of the state of Iowa because of the sparse population in some of these places. But with 12,546 votes coming in here, Randy Feenstra pushing up to about 64%, so it's a little bit closer than it was before. Ryan Melton, the Democrat, 36.2%, so 34-64, the difference between these two men. Mike, the one thing I was wondering about earlier tonight as I was looking over these maps would be that coming into this, now before Ann Seltzer's poll, mind you, but for Republicans in that southwest part of the state where there are so many conservatives there wasn't a lot of drama, right? Most of the legislative seats are already held by Republicans. Randy Feenstra, there was no doubt that he was going to get reelected, and for the longest time it looked like Donald Trump would probably have a pretty easy time in our state, and it remains to be seen, and we don't want to make too much of Ann Seltzer's poll till all these numbers come in, we'll know for sure. But it wasn't even a battleground state. The two campaigns didn't even campaign here, and we didn't even really get visits on the margins to try to bleed into Iowa just to try to get some media coverage there either. But Mike, was there any concern that turnout would be depressed in that northwest Iowa area because Republicans expected it to do so well?
I think there's always some concern, but I don't think that much in northwest Iowa. Northwest Iowa has traditionally been, a Republican stronghold and continues to be. I think where again, going back to what we talked about before, Dave, it's the old Tom Harkin way to victory. Kamala Harris doesn't need to win some of the rural counties, but she needs to cut down the margin in order to have a chance to win the state of Iowa. I still think that President Trump is going to win Iowa, but listen, Ann Seltzer is an honorable woman, and she's a crackerjack pollster. So I think what it showed was that is a much closer race than we thought it was going to be. And again, it's a question on the margin. Can she pick up some counties that neither Biden nor Clinton won? And can she cut down the margins in some of the other counties? That's what we need to look for tonight.
Hey, gents, we just got our first numbers in that first congressional race. Thanks to Connor for pointing this out. And it looks like they are all coming in Cedar County, which is kind of the way some of these things are bouncing in. So our first reports would be in Cedar County, Miller Meeks with a lead of 177 in that district. They're all in Cedar County, 5,083 total votes there. That would be 25% reporting from that county. So Miller Meeks with a 3.4% edge. It doesn't do the percentages for me. I got to do those on the fly. Let's just stick to the math that they do for me. 177 is what she's leading by with those first numbers coming in. So that's the first one. Just for fun, I'm going to look and see what that was back in 2022. 2022, Miller Meeks won that comfortably. So she won 60% roughly to about 40% for Bohannon. So we'll see how that one turns out.
Yeah, and she still needs to do that tonight, David. She still needs to win about 60%. That may be one of the counties that we're talking about. If Bohannon cuts down the margin in Cedar County, that could be significant for her.
Here's an interesting anecdote in terms of returns from the first congressional district. I had reached out to a campaign operative who's a good friend and asked about Johnson County, and he said that the numbers were so crazy good when they got them that they didn't release them. They've gone back to double check them. So that's not a number, but it's an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that's the only one we've got. And I kind of jumped in on you, Mike, when you were talking about the fourth. I'm going to shoot back to there while we see if any of these other numbers will update, and then I'm going to circle back to the third district here. But we've got a few counties reporting now in that fourth congressional district race. Maybe it gives us a little flavor about what turnout is looking like. But we've got Wright County with Feenstra 68-32 percentages, the difference in that so far. We've got Crawford County now in, and he is more than 2-1 over Melton in that, with about 32% of the estimated vote, it's saying in there. Carroll County up very big, roughly 2-1, so it's 34% of the vote that's in there too. 42.
Yeah, he's going to win comfortably, Dave. If Randy Veenstra was in trouble in the 4th district, a place that none of us want to go to would be freezing over tomorrow morning.
The one thing that early on, his Republican challenger in the primary had endorsed Ryan Melton, all because of that carbon sequestration pipeline, Kevin Virgil. But at the end of the day, it didn't make that big of a difference, and there was no way that those two didn't have some kind of big union and unity thing and join a force or something. He's out there campaigning for Melton. Really ended up being kind of an overblown thing. And
well, and Melton wasn't able to raise any money, Dave. The last time a Democrat raised significant money in that district was J.D. Is it Scholten, I believe, in 2018. And since that time, the Democrats just don't play in the 4th district, and they don't raise any money. And if you don't raise money, you're not going to do very well.
And you wonder with J.D. Scholten, the way he did it back then. Remember, he had the RV, Sioux City Sioux, and he was driving around from county to county to county to county. His dad would join him for a bunch of that trip. They'd stay wherever on the journey. It was such a visible way to get out there and get into the district and really get to know people. Now, granted, they were going up against Steve King, and some people were starting to tire of Steve King representing that district. So Scholten was able to not only mobilize some Democrats, but bringing over some independents. And we remembered at the time, you could look at those final numbers and you were seeing that Republicans were apparently supporting Kim Reynolds, but then also some of them jumping over to support J.D. Scholten. So maybe that was kind of a unique force at that time, and in this case, we're seeing no repeat. Let's back out and look at the presidential race. So we're starting to get more. We've popped over 250,000 now in this presidential race, and a few more counties reporting here, gents. And again, it's early, so we've got 9% reporting, 15% of the estimated total vote. But as we look at this, as we are now 8:39. Kamala Harris 54.5% and Donald Trump 44.3%. So this chunk that we have so far, you have Harris up by about 27,000. As we start looking at the county breakdown, we do have some new ones. So we already talked about Cerro Gordo before. This is where it was before, where she is up 433 there. And the Polka's actually jumped up now. So we have almost 11,000 votes that are now in from Polk County. Harris's lead, she has 56.1%. Donald Trump, 42.6%. So those are two of the counties she's up. The other one we now see is Dubuque County, 40% of the estimated total vote in. 24,000 total votes in on this. Kamala Harris 55% and 44% for Donald Trump. Let me see what that looked like in 2020. So Dubuque County in 2020, Mike, was Trump about 51%, Biden 48%. Do we make anything of this that Harris is up, or do we need some more votes in?
Well, you do if you were at 75% of the vote, then I think you would. But I don't think you do that yet. Dubuque is one of those counties that has dramatically changed over the years. I mean, Dubuque used to be solidly Democrat, and it has changed over the years. If we get to the point where you have 75% of the vote in and she's still ahead, then I think that's significant, Dave.
Dave, a couple of updates. Matt Blake has now defeated Brad Zahn. We were having the conversation earlier about the meaning of taking that seat, and the seat has in fact been taken at this point.
You can tell by the numbers that it looks like Blake's going to win?
Correct. Actually, I'm being told he has won.
And
Matt Blake, the winner, beating Brad Zahn.
So are you getting Dallas numbers?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be definitely one for us to keep an eye on. That would be a big pickup for the Senate Democrats if they are able to do that.
Well, that's the one that they were really keen on to get to 17. And you talked about their modest expectations. They do have modest expectations, but that was the key in terms of them turning things around. Brad Zahn has always been a really tough campaigner.
Yeah.
He's had a long career, and if he loses tonight, that is significant for the Democrats in terms of that number 17.
And
A little-
noticing on here, Jensen, I'm going to hit the third here before we take a break. Winnesheet County in, some numbers there, 53% of the estimated vote. You got Harris up 51.5 to 47.1. And I want to hit this third district, and I'm getting confirmation from a Democratic source, Jerry, that it does appear that Matt Blake has won that Senate seat, and apparently it's not even going to be close. My source is saying that it's about 1,700 votes or so.
Yeah, that's the number I had.
So that'd be a major flip for Democrats as they try to slowly rebuild. And we're coming up against the break where we need to take a pause here. But Jens, I'll hit you real quick with the third district. Latest numbers we have, we've got Lanan Bakam up in the third right now, up by 27,395. So he's percentage-wise 56.6 and 43.4. And it does appear we are still only talking about Polk numbers. Jerry, I'm also told that Nate Bolton race is very tight right now.
It's narrowed to 1,000.
All right. Gents, we appreciate you joining us for this hour. We're going to take a pause here, do a little number crunching, and then reset at the top of the hour at 9 o'clock. Jerry and Mike, thank you much. Thank you for joining us all throughout the state. We'll take a quick pause, load in some more numbers, see how things are looking, and we'll join you back here at 9 o'clock.